Thank you, Mr. Christopher Fritchie. You wrote that song, right? Yeah, that's very beautiful. And not only did he write the song, but yesterday at 5 o'clock, our guest musician who was scheduled to perform canceled due to illness, and so he had to pull that out of the air. And I really appreciate that. It reminds me, this is our center, and everybody, we see something on the floor, we pick it up. We're all participating in creating a beautiful experience. This is our center where we celebrate our spirituality. It's delightful. A colleague of mine came to, did I say good morning yet? Just straight to business. Good morning, beautiful people of the center. Right. Now let's get to business. A colleague of mine wandered in, and she said that the first thing she noticed is that this is a community of leaders, that everybody is participating and invested in helping the celebration service, the events happen. And that was like getting a gold star on my report card, because I'm very interested in shared leadership and collaboration and people finding their place in the community. About 2 weeks ago, another colleague of mine from a different denomination wandered in, right, at that time when I was talking about our giving intention, because it's that time of the year where we gather in our giving intentions. And, I explained we're not asking for money right now. What we're doing is asking for you to declare your intention to give next year. And he said to me, what a sensible way to do it. And that was like another gold star. And the two of us got to talking about the different ways we handle how we support our centers spiritually. And we got to asking each other, what are the blocks that get in the way of people completing a form like this? What is it? And he said, I think it's the same across all denominations. It's not a religious difference. It's just the human condition. Sometimes when we give a small amount, we might discount our own contribution and think it doesn't matter. It doesn't count. And we got to talking about the value of stepping forward into participation and what that does for the individual. Like, I am part of this experience. It was such a wonderful experience to talk about that and to see how both of us in our different ways are trying to create the connection between how you as an individual participate and the well-being of the center that you love. Because we take these bits of paper and we plan the next year based on what you disclose to us. So, I know there are some people who know already that they are not going to fill in one of those forms. And you can still help us by going to the giving intention table and sharing with us what contributes to your decision not to participate. Because maybe we can learn to do this in a better way that will help you feel enrolled. We're very open to knowing about that. And if you have already completed your giving intention form, thank you very much. Don't forget to pick up your ticket to the free gratitude event. We have an awesome concert planned to say thank you, especially if you did it online, because you can go to the table and we've got all your names there so we can give you your ticket to come to the event. Why do we have a gratitude event? Well, it's part of our teaching at the center. We know that gratitude and prosperity go hand in hand. So it's for us, the combined heart of the center, to stay open and express gratitude as a way of being in the flow. And it's an awesome, awesome concept. So the update is, in terms of dollars pledged so far, we're doing better than last year. And thank you for those people who accepted the invitation to moderately increase their giving. Thank you for that. The other side of it is we are behind in numbers of forms that we've received in comparison to last year. So it's interesting. So that's why I asked the staff to staple this in. A little bit of a control freak I understand that, but I invite you today to submit your form and to let us know about it. Now, so far, we've heard about the legacy that we are leaving for future generations. Do you know that next year we will be 60 years old? 60 years in Santa Rosa, we've been holding these doors open. We're now old enough to have children who have grown up in this tradition, like our host that you heard this morning, Evan, he grew up in this. And so we're looking now for the first time really at the future and what about the coming generations. We've heard from our very young people in the first week's video. We heard from our teenagers the second week. We heard from our young adults last week. And so now it's your turn. It's the adults' turn to answer the question, what does the Center for Spiritual Living mean in my life? What has it contributed to my life? So we interviewed a couple of people, and here's what they have to say. Let's see if we can get the video going.
The things about this center that have affected my life are so many that that's not a short and easy answer. But what I can say is it has affected my sense of peace. Instead of being depressed, instead of feeling alone, there's a sense that there's community here and it's available to me.
One of the best things about the Center for Spiritual Living for me is the sense of being part of a community.
It has affected my prosperity. When I started here, I was living hand to mouth, sometimes not even quite that far. And I was just able to do my first tithe check that had a comma in it. That's one of my goals, and it's so awesome. I'm living that way now. I'm living in a way that brings me joy in my daily life. And without the practices that I learned here and continue to practice on a daily basis, that wouldn't be happening. I need the practices, and I need the community to support to maintain those practices.
When I later discovered that I was gay, I felt even more excluded from society in general, especially in Utah. Now that I'm in California and going to the Center for Spiritual Living, I truly feel a part of the community, accepted for everything about myself. That's one of the best things about the center for me.
You know what I love about the Center for Spiritual Living is that every Sunday it provides an anchor for me. Every Sunday to sit and to meditate and to hear the message that is always, it always moves me. And sometimes I cry, sometimes I laugh, and I enjoy the fact that I am able to serve and sing on the Christmas services and serve that way. And it's just a very good time for my husband and I to be together as well. I love it.
I enjoy these videos so much, I can just watch them over and over again. And they are on our website, and it's caused a series of copycat videos in other centers for spiritual living as people are interviewing their own communities and finding there are these beautiful, rich experiences that are taking place. And it's just lovely to see it happening. Okay, this is the fourth week in our series of creative expression as spiritual practice. And we are using the book by Julia Cameron, Walking in This World, which is a guide for artists, but we are using it because it's actually a guide for spiritual living. Now, it's written for artists, but everywhere you see art, just substitute life, and you have a manual for living a God-centered life. It's absolutely beautiful. And this week's chapter is authenticity, which in the world of art means, and let's have our first slide. This is authenticity in the world of art. It means having the quality or condition of being genuine, having undisputed credibility, not counterfeit, not copied, bona fide, genuine, real, true, undoubted. So that's art. But don't you know, that's life. That's a beautiful description of authentic living for me and for you, I'm guessing. Spiritual living is about being genuine, which means being sincere, about being dependable, which means having credibility, trustworthiness, not counterfeit, not bogus, not phony, not fake, but true. Well, true to what? Well, we have a quote from the book from Shakti Gawain, who, next slide, who, by the way, spoke at the center. What a wonderful woman, the author of Creative Visualization. She came and spoke here, and she says in the book, we will discover, why don't you read this with me? We will discover the nature of our particular genius when we stop trying to conform to our own or to other people's models, learn to be ourselves, and allow our natural channel to open. There you have it, to be true to ourselves. And what gets in the way of that is when I try to be something that I'm not. When I try to conform to other models. Sometimes that's my own model I'm holding up. I need to be more like Chris. It's not going to happen. Or it's other people's models of how I'm supposed to be in the world. And every time I try to conform to another model, it's exhausting. In the book I recently wrote, The Power of Meditation, I confessed in there that as a young man, the reason why I started my interest in meditation is because I thought it would look good. Yeah, I wanted to appear to be more spiritual than I thought I was. It's a confession. The good thing about the practice of meditation is that if you do it, it will cure that low-level thinking. Right? So eventually I found that the practice itself brought me up out of that desire to appear to be any different from the way I was. But remembering that story, I also remembered all the other times that I have tried to be someone else. And how exhausting it was. And by definition, I try to keep this in mind, authenticity is specific to the individual. So my version of authentic me has to be different to your version of authentic you. You remember the first week in this series? You're not normal. Hallelujah. Oh dear. Being true to yourself and being authentic, in my experience, brings with it a terrific relief. All that energy that I was using going out just comes home. Today in this world, we can purchase all kinds of expensive new clothing or furniture that has been distressed on purpose. To look like something that it's not. I was remembering a trip to Bali, and one vendor had this sign, a humorous sign saying, antiques made to order. Except it wasn't a joke. They made things to look like something that they weren't. Oh my. Or weathered clothing so it looks aged, but it isn't. Stone-washed so that it looks well-worn, but it isn't. So that it looks like something that it's not, because it gives the impression that it belongs to a different time and a different place and a different person. We will discover the nature of our particular genius when we stop all of that. Come home. Because it takes so much energy to make something look like it's not. I call that faux authenticity. And I can tell when I'm messing with it because I start to feel empty. The next slide comes from Robert Browning, who says, "My business is not to remake myself, but make the absolute best of what God has made." Oh, there's something so lovely in that. Start with what is. Start with what God made. Stop trying to be anything else than that. There's something so genuine about that. And it occurs to me that being genuine, it doesn't seem like it should be that hard to pull off. I mean, really, at a baseline, probably being genuine means you stand for what you believe in. Or it means something like you follow through on your promises and agreements you can be counted on. Or it means that you refrain from deceitfulness. Or it means you speak plainly with sincerity, Maybe it is hard. And it oughtn't to be. You see, another word for all of that is integrity. And integrity means to me that there is an agreement between my behavior and my stated beliefs. It means that there's an agreement between what I say and then what I do. It matches, it all matches. So it occurs to me that for a person to be authentic and to have integrity, that figuring out what you value is very important, because how can you stand for something if you don't know what it is? It's hard to practice being true to something if you don't know what you're supposed to be true to. It's certainly helped me a lot getting clearer on my values. It's affected the way I am in the world in very specific ways. The next slide is the first one. It assists me in making decisions that I can live with and feel proud of, because now I'm putting what is important in my inner life out there, and it's affecting my choices. For example, like when we installed the solar panels here at the center. That was a decision that was driven by our desire to become more conscious of how and what we consume, to be good stewards. Because the installation wasn't of an economic advantage to us. It was just the right thing to do. And we studied it for years to make it happen. And now it's happened. I can feel the solidness, the goodness of the decision. It matches. The second slide, it helps me to decide on how to invest my time and energy and money. And I'm remembering about 15 years ago, we had some money. It was in an investment company, I think in San Francisco or somewhere. And at the time, the leadership said, we should bring our money locally here to Sonoma County and invest it here. And at the time, we could not find an investment company that had a socially responsible portfolio. We couldn't find one here. But we got to talk to one local one, and they said it was so impactful to them that they established a socially responsible portfolio based on our inquiry. And then we realized that standing for our values, we had an impact on the investment practices of our own county. That's powerful. And personally, I'm going through something related to this right now. And this is personal. This is me. I'm not expecting anybody else to do what I do. This is about me. I'm just sharing how this works. What's going on for me right now is I am very disappointed in Orson Scott Card, the author of the book Ender's Game. And I'm not going to go and see the movie, and I'll tell you why. Is because he has been on the board and is a very strong supporter of the nation's most vociferous opponent of marriage equality, and is in favor of keeping laws against homosexual behavior, keeping them on the books. So now I'm not saying that his politics or points of view have to agree with mine, but I don't want my money to support his point of view. That's all. So now that's my personal decision. Now I'm very upset because I want to see the movie. But I won't. He won't get 1 penny of my money. Not a penny. But that's for me, you see. It's for me to know. I can't tell somebody else how to behave. I don't know how you should behave. That's what's so wonderful about the center. We can be left-wing, right-wing, Republican, Democrat, right, wrong, upside down. We all can be here. But we must be true to ourselves. That's the strength of our community. The next slide. It also helps me to speak up when I witness something that is in conflict with my heart, instead of enduring it, which is what I used to do when I was younger. I didn't have the skill. I didn't know how. So, for example, if somebody told me an ethnic joke, I would just say nothing. But afterwards, I felt so empty, like I had been part of it. Or now, if I witness it, I speak up. Or bullying or cruelty towards animals, I speak up. And I had to learn how to because I didn't know how to. I was very inelegant when I first started. So I have to read the book, Nonviolent Communication. I read it once a year, whether I need it or not. Because I have to keep on refreshing. How do I speak up in a way that doesn't make enemy images of other people? How do I speak from my value? So I can't keep quiet anymore. And that relates to the next slide. Getting clear on my values helps by raising the bar, because now everybody around me expects me to behave that way. Right? When you start standing up for your values, you can't slink back into the dark. You know, my friends are all too happy to point out, oh, I thought that you stood for. Right? And it makes me mad, but I'm grateful. I am grateful because left on my own without adult supervision, I get up into all sorts of nonsense. So my suggestion is, if a person wants to have a sense of feeling authentically true to themselves, they probably have to start with finding what do they value and then commit to being an expression of that in the world. And get really clear on what you value. But by that I mean when somebody says to you what you value, you can answer A, B, and C. You don't go, I don't know. Look, it may change over time. I understand that. But at any point, do you know what you stand for? I've thought about it for myself. I wanted to get clear about it. And I know if you ask me, what do you value? I will tell you. Kindness, love, and honesty. And don't you know? Those are my Achilles heels too. So I can't do anything without bumping into them. And an opportunity to be better at them. You know, when you get that clear on your values, it becomes easier for you to notice when you're out of sync with them. And don't you know, when you get that clear on your values, you don't even need to announce it to people because it becomes evident. They see it as the way you show up in the world, you know. You can think about it this way. If it was your obituary that we were reading today, we were at your funeral, what would the people who know you be saying about you? They would be describing what you stood for in the world. I was reading an obituary this morning. I brought it along. It's on my phone. It's about the Beverly Hills divorcee nun who passed away. Yeah. Here's what it says, obituary. Mrs. Brenner began providing for inmates, because she's now was doing a ministry in Tijuana in prison. Providing inmates basic needs by giving them aspirin blankets, toiletries, and prescription eyeglasses. She sang in worship services. She received a prison contract to sell soda to prisoners and used the proceeds to bail out low-level offenders. If a prisoner died of illness or in a gang fight, she prepared him for burial. Inmates told how Mother Antonia once walked into the middle of a prison riot while bullets flew and tear gas filled the air. When the inmates saw her, fearless in her habit, the fighting stopped immediately. She never seemed to stop smiling. And in due course, of course, she decided to move into the prison itself, in a 10-by-10 cell in the women's section. And she says, it's different to live among the people than it is to visit them, she told the Washington Post. I have to be here with them in the middle of the night in case someone is stabbed, in case someone has an appendix attack, in case someone dies. And what's even more remarkable, this twice divorced woman, you know, not acceptable to her faith tradition to receive orders or establish an order. So you know what she did? She did what St. Francis did. She started one anyway. She put on her own habit and started one. And of course, then eventually her order was recognized, and now the criterion for joining the order is this: members must in their hearts and in their lives bear the pain of the poor, the imprisoned, the sick and the rejected, the forgotten and the abandoned, for they are the children of God. How about that? Oh. Now, you and I don't have to wait for our funeral or our obituaries to be written. There's another way to find out what you stand for. You see, your friends probably already know. So you can go and ask them. You know, go to some people you really love and say to them, look, I won't get mad. Just tell me, what do I stand for in the world? And you know, if you don't like what you hear, then you've learned something very valuable. Because, according to our ways, that you can recreate the way you show up in the world. Any moment, you can bring it back into alignment with what is true inside of you. At any moment, we can be born again in a twinkling of an eye through consciousness. And there's another way. If you don't feel like you want to go ask friends, you can do this exercise, and we do it. We did it at the Intentions workshop this weekend. We did it at Man Spirit retreat. We do it in the self-mastery class because it's so valuable. And it's like this. You just sit down and make a list of people in your life that have really made a contribution to your life, who you admire, who've really made you think about your life. Make a list of the people, and then next to each person, write down the values that you admire in them, what they stand for. Make a complete list. So when you've got all of those values written down, put them together on one page and study it to see, is there a pattern? They're repeated values. Does something rise up to the surface? Because that has probably got something to do with what you value. And then you can make the decision to live for that. Knowing what is important to you and living for it, you'll begin to notice when you're out of sync with it, because you have something in you that Julia Cameron calls your inner beeper. Most of us experience the presence of what I often call my beeper. I will get a flash that something is not quite right. If I ignore it, I will get another flash. My beeper will beep until I pay attention to it, checking in on the ominous feeling I'm trying to ignore. Recently, my beeper went off that something I had written was not quite right. Oh, it's bound to be fine, I tried to reassure myself. How bad can it be? I wrote it. And everybody, including 3 editors, read it. What's the problem? When my beeper persisted and no amount of "it's fine" felt fine, I finally called back the questionable text right as the presses were ready to roll. Was it fine? Absolutely not. An immediate, thorough page 1 started all over rewrite was what was called for. I gladly rewrote the offending piece, and I felt I had had a very close call indeed. And so a sense of rightness will most usually mean all is well, and a sense of wrongness will also usually mean something is wrong. Listening to such gut feelings is always worth the time and trouble it takes. When we let God be God and work through us, we experience both a sense of serenity and excitement. We experience integrity, which comes from the root word integer, meaning whole, unfragmented by doubt or discomfort. When we experience a sense of oneness with God, ourselves, and our fellows, we can safely know we are in our integrity. See, a manual for spiritual living. So in summary, what I'm trying to say today is that authentic living, like authentic art, has the quality or condition of being genuine, not copied. And that an authentic person, like an authentic artist, is genuine when she or he stops trying to conform to other models or images or ways of being. And finally, that you and I can be even more authentic when we take the time to find out what we value and to live for that. Let us pray. There is only one creative genius that is the author of all of life. It's called by different names: God, divinity, the mind, the thing itself. We are talking about that invisible intelligence that is everywhere present. And when I say everywhere present, I realize that means where I am. And wherever I am, that's where it is. And that is true for wherever any person is all the time. This allows me to relax and to understand that I can, at any moment, turn to that intelligence within, access it, live from it, love through it, inquire into it, be guided from it. As I do this, as I rededicate myself to living from this God presence within, I become everything that I have been created to be. the beauty of life reveals itself to me. The opportunities for compassion and collaboration reveal itself to me. And I find myself taking my place in the community of beings in such a way as to be a help, as to be a loving presence, as to be a healing balm. This fills me with gladness, and I let this word be. I release it into the law of mind, understanding that even in this moment, I am changed. As I speak this word, saying I mean the I that is we, wherever it appears, for all of us as we accept it.